Shalom Lakem, giving honor and praise to Yah, the creator and maker of heaven and earth. The earth we on and the water beneath us. The one who judges all and is not judged. The one who sees all and is not seen. The one who gave Yisrael, that is to say the children of Israel, the laws, statutes, and commandments that are like none other on the earth. This presentation will touch on several subjects, ranging from Hebrew to explaining why we don't say the holy name as Ahayah. Some will agree, some will not. This is presented in love and respect to the house of Israel. Brothers and sisters, my name is Yeshaya Yisrael, known to some as Kashub the Danite. This presentation, called A Matter of Hebrew Clarified, is for those who are seeking the knowledge concerning the Hebrew within the scriptures. Next slide. Clarity of a matter. Genesis chapter 6 verse 19. And of every living thing, of all flesh, two of every sort shalt thou bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. Genesis 7 verse 2. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee 7 by 7, each with his mate. And of the beasts that are not clean, 2 and 2, each with his mate. Now, many people attempt to actually state that Genesis 6:19 and Genesis 7 verse 2 is in some way a contradiction, which in actuality it's not. One will have to understand the distinction between male and female and the distinction between clean and unclean. Without understanding the distinction between male and female, as well as the distinction between clean and unclean, then one may see this in Genesis 6:19 and Genesis 7 verse 2 as a contradiction. Genesis 6:19 says, two of every sort meaning gender, thou shalt bring into the ark, to keep them alive with thee. They shall be male and female. So the two is identified as one being male and two being female. So together is 1 and 2. So it's not a contradiction in Genesis 6:19. Now, Genesis chapter 7 verse 2, it says, of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee 7 and 7, each with his mate, and of the beasts that are not clean. But if you don't understand the distinction, unfortunately, between clean and unclean, that's why some may just read beast in a number without understanding masculine or male and feminine and female. And of that, you bring them in there by 7s that are clean. To know what clean animals are, one needs to go to Leviticus chapter 11. Let's go on to the next slide. Isaiah scroll, Dead Sea Scroll, and Old Hebrews. Now, what you're looking at on the left-hand side comes from the Dead Sea Scrolls, in which part of the book of Isaiah is written. What you're looking at on the right-hand side is Israelites, though many of them may refer to themselves or been called as black Jews or quote-unquote. These are people who help precede many of the camps that you see today. All right, so this is just something I just wanted to point out for edification purposes. It is not a respectful thing to try to insult those who help pave the way for you. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. Hebrew and the family it belongs to. What you're looking at on the left-hand side is a copy of the Hebrew alphabet. All right, remembering that Hebrew is read from right to left, and there's 22 letters in the original Hebrew alphabet, of which you see in Psalms 119 in the Bible. All right. Now, what you're looking at on the right-hand side is the Afro-Asiatic languages. And if you look, brothers and sisters, you will begin to see, all right, good and well, that under where it says Near East, then it says Semitic, Akkadian, and under that you have Hebrew and Aramaic. So Hebrew is listed as part of the Afro-Asiatic languages. All right, it is not in European or Indo-European language. Let's go on to the next slide. Tanakh, vocabulary aspect, Baruch Bula. Other restrictions on our information must be kept in mind. Biblical Hebrew, okay, is essentially a literary language. and the ostraca offer many educated scribal style with a bureaucratic slant. However, as a result of the mainly religious interests the Bible has preserved, wide sections of social and technical activity find no representation in biblical vocabulary. What is being stated on the left-hand side, brothers and sisters, is this: that most of the day-to-day daily life of the people in biblical times we do not have. Now, of course, we as Israelites don't subscribe to the terminology and understanding of religious interests. However, we do know that due to the cultural aspect and the spiritual aspect that the Bible speaks of, we don't see the regular activities of the people in the Bible in linguistics. So now, looking at it on the right-hand side, where you see the Baruch Bulah, you'll begin to see certain things that the Bible doesn't talk about, certain people that the Bible may not even speak of. All right? So that's the point in showing that. This Bulah that you see there on the right-hand side dates to the era of Jeremiah the prophet in the 6th century BCE. Let's go to the next slide. Hebrew aspect. Within the Canaanite group, Hebrew has a special place, almost halfway between Phoenician and Old Aramaic, and in its turn, a center of innovation which spread throughout the neighboring areas. The Hebrew Bible does not include every Hebrew word from biblical times. The earliest inscriptions in Hebrew are from the 10th century BCE. Now, the fact that the earliest Hebrew inscriptions date to the 10th century BCE does not mean, excuse me, does not mean that that's when Hebrew was stated to be created or spoken. It just happens to be dated to that time in which people began to write in that particular aspect. There are certain words to this day that people do not write because their languages are not in written form. So this is just something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right, now when you look at the right-hand side, it says the Arad Astrakhan, Temple of Yahweh Zedekiah 597 BCE. This also dates to the, as noted, to the time of Jeremiah the prophet. To my Lord Eliashib, may Yahweh concern himself with your well-being, and now give Shemaiah a letek measure of flour, and to the Karasite give a omer measure of flour. As regards the matter concerning which you give me orders, everything is fine now. He is staying in the temple of Yahweh. So this is just something we want to point out, and as you notice, it's located in the Israel Museum. All right? So Arad is South Israel, as you go by where the people of Judah was in ancient times. All right? Let's go on, brothers and sisters, to the next slide. The matter regarding Hebrew origin. The way to say Hebrew, the language in Hebrew, is Ibrit. The way to say Hebrew, a person in Hebrew, is Ibrit. The root of such comes from the word Abar, said by some as Ibar. The Israelites descended from the Chaldeans and Arameans. The language Abraham spoke was Chaldean, and the language his daughter-in-law spoke was Aramaic, that being Rebecca. The Israelites were called Hebrew by outsiders, yet called others Hebrew as well. The Israelites referred to other peoples as Hebrew as well. The style of writing that we see in ancient Hebrew is a Canaanite style of writing, yet the pronunciation of such wording is not Canaanite. Since the language of both the northern and southern kingdoms, that's to say the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, were different than that of the Ugaritic Canaanite aspect. So the Ugaritic text or the Ugaritic text, brothers and sisters, is different than the writings that you see coming out of the potsherds and the records left, such as the Bulah and so forth, coming out of the northern and southern kingdom of Israel. The commercial or generic name Hebrew, who were in this regard the Israelites, is how what is called Hebrew became known. The style of writing we see today as Block Hebrew is Aramaic in script or Aramaic in writing. Aramaic and Hebrew are cousins in linguistics. Hebrew is listed, as we shown earlier, as part of the Afro-Asiatic languages. What is referred to as modern Hebrew is ancient Hebrew with a modern term. Example, qarar means to be cool, but qarer means refrigerator. What is referred to as Yiddish is not Hebrew. Example, ain, Hebrew word for mother, and mut'ar, Yiddish word for mother. So these are just some of the things we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide. The matter regarding Hebrew origin and reason. When we hear the argument that Hebrew has no vowels, one is saying that Hebrew has no sound. Vowels make sound. There are today spoken languages that are not written. Fire offering in Hebrew is said as Ishe, and woman is Isha. Hebrew holds the same written form of such words. The argument stating that Hebrew is a Canaanite, and yes, some say Edomite language, is also not true. Judith, wife of Edom, Yehudit, may very well have had a different root in meaning that Judah, Yehuda. They're trying to connect Judith and Judah, which doesn't always work. Babel in Hebrew and Babel in Babylonian are not the same. Bar in Hebrew is different than bar in Aramaic and English. Bar in Hebrew means to be pure. Bar in Aramaic means sun. And we know what a bar is in English, a place where people go to lounge. One must know transliteration, translation, and reason. All languages come from the Most High. So this is something, brothers and sisters, we just want to point out for edification purposes. All right? Now in Hebrew, the way to say fire offering, as we see in Leviticus chapter 3, is said as Ishe. And yet in Genesis chapter 2, we see the word Isha, spelled the exact same Hebrew letters, meaning woman. All right? Next slide. Hebrew, ancient and modern. What you're looking at on the left-hand side is ancient form of writing Hebrew, which some people refer to as the Canaanite style of writing. All right? What you're looking at on the right-hand side, brothers and sisters, is Hebrew written in modern form. But this actual writing that you see on the right-hand side is Aramaic in script. This is what we want to point out. This is Aramaic in script. Next slide. Hebrew, very ancient and ancient. Hebrew writing from Samaria, Gezer, Siloam, Lachish, fields or potsherd, Leviticus fragments, Elephatim, Eshmunazar. And then we go on to see this. The Meisner Papyrus and the Eshmunazar sarcophagus both contain Hebrew writing, both dated to the 6th and 5th centuries respectively. So the Meisner Papyrus is dated to the 6th century, and the Eshmunazar sarcophagus is dated to the 5th century BCE. All right, and in both of them, you actually see writing of Hebrew. What I'm showing, brothers and sisters, on the left-hand side, all right, is the fact that, sorry about that, that there are different writing forms of Hebrew, all right, in history. So you have the same pronunciations or the same alphabet, brothers and sisters, just written in different forms. Just like in English, you have calligraphy, you have script, you have block, or you have print, and so forth. So this is just something we want to point out. Next slide. Hebrew aspect number 2. Ancient scholars considered it to have been the original language of mankind and the tongue in which the words of creation were created. That's what many people say regarding Hebrew. Hebrew is called the language of Judea, or the language of Judah, in Isaiah 36. Hebrew is called the language of Canaan, or Canaan, in Isaiah 19. Hebrew, as shown, is the cousin of Aramaic, and thus the matter of Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, and other aspects of Arameans in Israel shows that the languages are known together from ancient times. So this is something we want to point out, that Rebecca, Jacob's mother, as well as Raquel and Leah, Jacob's wives, were women who were Aramean. So they, certainly in the case of Leah, naming her children, gave her children names that can be traced back in many cases to Aramaic. This is something we just want to point out for edification purposes. All right, let's go on to the next slide. The Aram people in the land of the Habiru. What you're looking at on the left-hand side is pictures of how the people who were the ancient Arameans look like in part. All right, what you're looking at, brothers and sisters, on the right-hand side, it says civilizations influenced by the Habiru. Now, the point in going over that, as you see the arrow there, brothers and sisters, is that the Israelites come from, in history, from this area here, from Ur Chaldea. Then Abraham went up over here and then traveled down here. All right, and then later on, eventually, having children, they eventually, as we know, as the story goes on, went into the land of Canaan. All right, so this is something we want to point out in a map showing where the Israelites were at. Now, when you look at, brothers and sisters, this particular aspect, the Aram people, and then you see Syria here. The Arameans and the Syrians were the same people. Syria is the Greek transliteration of the word Aram. Let's go on to the next slide. Afro-Asiatic influence in the migration. So the part that you see here, brothers and sisters, on the map is where the Afro-Asiatic languages were spoken and where the children of Israel came from in origin and where they winded up being over here. Brothers and sisters, was both part of the Afro-Asiatic languages, and it's not a European thing. All right, it's connected in the language family to the people over here by where you call East Africa. All right, Ethiopia, Somalia area, Eritrea, and so forth. Okay, Sudan and so forth. The Semitic origin of the Fulani cannot be questioned. That comes from a book called Hebrew Heritage of Black Africa by Stephen Jacobs. Now, if we're dealing with what is referred to as Semitic, which we explained before, Shemitic languages, and according to many scholars, such as the one named Stephen Jacobs, he has passed away since he wrote his book, right? He said that the Semitic origin of the Fulani cannot be questioned. So when we look at where the Fulani was, all the way from this area here, Senegal, going all the way across to the Sudan, and also going down here in Cameroon and all this area right here, you'll begin to see that, according to some brothers and sisters, the Fulani people, which in part was taken into captivity to the Western Hemisphere, are part of the language family and peoples of the people of the Shemites. There were many Hebrew, and some may say Jewish, tribes that are of indigenous African origin. The rebellion in Cyrene in 115 AD, some say 115 CE, okay, against Rome, marked the beginning of a mass Jewish migration southward in Sudan into Fouta Djallon and Senegal, and the area of Timbuktu, Mali, currently is. Timbuktu is in Mali. African Origins of Major Western Religions by Dr. Ben. He too has passed away since the writing of his book. So what this author right here is stating is that there are many Hebrew tribes that are of indigenous African origin. So the rebellion in Cyrene is in Libya, all right? So we just want to point that out. Now, Libya being in this area right here, west of Egypt, all right? Against Rome marked the beginning of a mass Jewish, which he already stated is Hebrew, migration southward into Sudan, Fouta Djallon, and Senegal. Senegal is over here. The Fulani people in part live in Senegal along with the people known as the Wolof tribe. So what am I pointing out is that the Israelites in part migrated to certain parts of Africa. And so I'm citing different sources that speak upon this. All right. Stephen Jacobs, not being racial, was a white man. All right. Dr. Ben was a black man. Dr. Ben did not even subscribe to even labeling himself as part of the house of Israel, even though he came from a community that was calling themselves Beta Israel, who were called Falashas. But the point, getting back to the subject matter, brothers and sisters, is the fact of trying to emphasize that the Israelites in part migrated to certain parts of Africa. Next slide. Siloam inscription and part of translation. This is the Siloam inscription, which goes back to the era of ancient Israel. All right? This going back to the era of the time of Isaiah, also during the time of King Hezekiah. Isaiah the prophet, that is. Behold, the excavation. Now this had been the history of the excavation while the workmen was still lifting up. The axe, each toward his neighbor, the voice of the other who called to his neighbor, since there was an excess of the rock. So this is what we just read, part of the translation. Now, as stated, Siloam is also known as Shiloah in the book of Isaiah, all right, which speaks about the rivers and the waters in the tunnel that they was digging in, and so forth and so on, all right. When you read about the waters of Siloah in the book of Isaiah, Siloam is the same exact aspect. So the Hebrew that you see right here, brothers and sisters, dates back to ancient Israel. So when many people ask were there any Hebrew inscriptions before the timing of Herod, during the time when the Romans were in power, yes, we could begin to see so in this particular regard. Next slide. The aspect of Hebrew. Hebrew over the centuries has had little change. That's coming from a book called A History of the Hebrew Language by Angel Badillos. You can look that book up online. Hebrew, a Western Semitic language on the Afro-Asiatic language tree. The term Afro-Asiatic was made in 1914 by Maurice Delafosse, or Delafosse. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. The term Hemito-Semitic was coined in 1876 by Friedrich Müller. So this is something we want to point out. So when you read about languages under a listing of Hemito-Semitic language, that terminology was coined in the 1870s. All right? And the terminology Afro-Asiatic was made in the aspect of the early 20th century AD. So Hebrew is listed, brothers and sisters, as part of the languages of the Hemito-Semitic peoples. And so now when you begin to see that Hebrew is listed as part of being part of the Canaanite family of linguistics, it's not too hard to figure out. Why? Because the ancient writing style that ancient Israel had, such as you see in the Siloam inscription, the actual phonetics of such and the actual writing of such goes back to the ancient Canaanite form of writing. Yet the pronunciation is that of the Israelites. It's just as much as you see French and Spanish and English written with all the same characters and letters. Yet French has its own distinction, Spanish has its own distinction, and English has its own distinction. So when you begin to see that Hebrew and Canaanite is written with the same characters and the same kind of writing style, does it mean that it is to be said to be solely a Canaanite language? This is what we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide. What truly is modern Hebrew? The Hebrew we speak today is deemed biblical Hebrew. True modern Hebrew is as such. Brooklyn as Brooklyn. Radio as radio. Television as Sikhayon. That is what that is. All right? When you hear Israelites, even as us being deemed quote unquote non-messianic, you don't hear us saying, Shema El HaRadio, listen to the radio. We don't say that. You understand? So the attacks, some of the disrespect, if you will, that Old Testament and many other Israelites have been shown, saying, oh, what you're speaking is Yiddish, such and such, is truly not the case. Yiddish came about, brothers and sisters, centuries after the aspect of Hebrew being shown with the Nikodot or the vowel points. Yiddish goes all the way back, brothers and sisters, to like the 10th century, the 13th century AD, all right, which was spoken by European Jews in Germany, all right. So this is just something we want to point out. The Hebrew Moses spoke was different, not contradictory, than what Solomon spoke. The Hebrew Solomon spoke was different, not contradictory, than what Jeremiah spoke, all right. So when you look, for instance, in 1 Samuel chapter 9, verse 9, when it says that the person that was a seer was called a prophet and vice versa, That's the point in mentioning that. Jeremiah chapter 28, verse 3 is when you begin to see the word Nebuchadnezzar in the scriptures. All right? Nebuchadnezzar is the Hebrew transliteration of his Babylonian name, Nebu-Urasur. All right? So this is just something we just want to point out. Next slide. The matter of Yiddish discussed. Yiddish, though it uses the Hebrew lettering, we should not think it is Hebrew words. Example, Abba means father in Hebrew. Written in English letters, yet it is not an English word. ABBA is not an English word, even though it's written in English letters. All right? It's the transliteration of the Hebrew word Abba, which means father. So just because Yiddish uses the same form of alphabet writing as Hebrew doesn't make it Hebrew. Yiddish dates back to the 9th century AD. Yiddish should not be confused with Hebrew simply because each share the same alphabet. So this is just something we want to point out. I can take a Chinese alphabet, if you will, and then write perhaps Abba in it. It doesn't make it a Chinese word. All right? I'm still speaking about Hebrew words, just using a different alphabet to convey a point. This is just something we want to point out for edification purposes. Sun worship is endorsed in Torah. That's a question. All right? Old Testament Hebrew explained. Daniel chapter 7, verse 10. A fiery stream issued and came forth from before him. Thousands ministered unto him, and 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. The judgment was set, and the books were opened. Nahara di Nur. Nagade Wanafek Min Kwadamohi. Elef Alfin. Yesham Shune. Wa Ribo. Ribban. Kwadamohi. Yokumun. Dina Yati. Wasif Ring Pitihu. Now, it's written, noted in Hebrew lettering, but the actual pronunciation goes back to the Aramaic. Now, what you're seeing, brothers and sisters, here in the book of Daniel, right? Ministered, highlighted in the yellow. Ministered, highlighted in the yellow there in the writing form. Next slide. Old Testament Hebrew explained part 2. For the Lord God is a sun and shield. The Lord giveth grace and glory. No good thing will he withhold from them that walk uprightly. The Hebrew says, Kishemesh umagain Yah Elohim. Chain wakabo yitin Yah. Lo yim natob lahochim batamin. So looking at it in this particular regard, all right, the highlighted part there in the blue, Shemesh, translated there as the word sun. But we want to point out that the word Shemesh, brothers and sisters, taking it back to ministered, Yesham Shune, Sheen Mem Sheen. Shamash means to serve. It means to be used. Next slide. All right. What am I pointing out? That instead of it saying, for the Lord God is the sun and shield, we should know and understand that it says the Lord God is used as a shield. Because the word for sun, like the sun in the sky, brothers and sisters, goes back to the Hebrew word Hama, which means a thing of heat, which you see in the book of Isaiah, chapter 24 in the Hebrew. So this is just something we want to point out. All right? Next slide. The stores of Solomon, how many? 1 Kings chapter 4. And Solomon had 40,000 stores of horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. 2 Chronicles chapter 9. And Solomon had 4,000 stores for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, that he bestowed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem. Now, many people attempt to go here to say, well, it says in one part in Kings, it says 40,000 stores of horses. And then it says 4,000 stores for horses and chariots. But do you see the distinction, brothers and sisters, is the fact that one part is saying 40,000 stores of horses for his chariots. And then we're seeing 4,000 stores for horses and chariots. which means, brothers and sisters, that the one who's the author in Kings and the one who's the author in Chronicles is letting you know, brothers and sisters, that there was a distinction between what amount of stores of horses for his chariots, as opposed to the stores for horses and chariots. That's the distinction of horses, as you see in First Kings, and for horses, as you see in the book of Chronicles. So this is just something we want to point out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes. Okay, let's go on, if you will, to the next part. Did Saul really lay naked with men? Now, this is talking about Saul in the Bible, the king, all right? Old Testament Hebrew explained part 4. Let's go. From the uttermost part of the earth have we heard songs, glory to the righteous. But I say, I waste away, woe is me. The treacherous deal treacherously, yea, the treacherous deal very treacherously. This is coming, brothers and sisters, from the book of Jeremiah. Mikna fa'aret zimrot, shamanu zebi lezadik, wa omar razili, oli, bogdim bagadu, ubeged bogdim bagadu. What am I pointing out? That the word bagad, brothers and sisters, in Hebrew means to deal treacherously. Now, many people hear bagad or beged and they think of the word garment, which it does mean garment. But in the verb form, brothers and sisters, the verb bagad means to deal treacherously. This becomes important if we're going to get into the aspect of Saul. Next slide. Old Testament Hebrew explained part 5. This is coming from the book of Samuel, chapter 19. And he also stripped off his clothes, and he also prophesied before Samuel, and lay down naked all that day and all that night. Wherefore they say, is Saul also among the prophets? The Hebrew says this, Wayit shat gamhu, begadail, Wayit nabe gamhu, lifnei shemuel, Wayifol aron, kal hayom hahu, wakal halayla, al king yomru, haged sha hagam, sha'u ban bi'im. What are we pointing out, brothers and sisters, is this. You see the yellow part that says in the Hebrew, Begadiah? The Bet, the Gamel, and the Dalet are still there. Remembering that Bagad means to deal treacherously, as we pointed out over here in the book of Jeremiah. Bagad, the treacherous, deal treacherously. So if we already see, brothers and sisters, that Bagad means to deal treacherously, then we have to begin to see that the word Begadiah means his treacherous ways, not meaning his garments. All right? Now, the part that says, in the highlighted there in the yellow, why Yifol Aron, and he fell Aron. Many people translate the word Aron meaning naked, yet we want to point out what the word Aron would mean when you're dealing with context clues. Next slide. All right? 1 Samuel 14, verse 45. And the people said unto Saul, shall Jonathan die, who hath wrought this great salvation in Israel? Far from it. As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground. For he hath wrought with God this day. So the people rescued Jonathan, that he died not. And it says this in the Hebrew. Wayomer ha'am el Shaul, Hayonatan, Yamut asher asa, Haishu'ah, Hadola hazot, Yisrael, Kalila chayot hewahe, im yifol, Sa'arat rosho araza, Ki im Elohim asa hayom hazeh, Wayifdu ha'am et yo natan, Walo mate. The part there you see there in the yellow says im yifol. Yifol means fall. from the root word nafal. Let's go on to the next part. Numbers chapter 14, verse 5. Vayifol Moshe wa Aharon al paneihem. And Moses and Aaron fell on their faces. Next slide. Jeremiah chapter 12. Right wouldest thou be, O Yah, were I to contend with thee. Yet will I reason with thee. Wherefore doth the way of the wicked prosper? Wherefore are all they secure that deal very treacherously? Zadik ata Yah, ki arib elecha, ak bishpatim adaber orcha, madua derek reshaim zalecha, shalu kalabog de baged. As remember, to deal treacherously in root, as we see there and highlighted in the red, is the bet, the gamel, and the dalet. Bagad, to deal treacherously. Next slide. Malachi chapter 2, verse 11. Judah have dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. Bagda Yehuda, wato Eba, the Esta Yisrael. Now the part that you see there highlighted in the red in Malachi, Bagda, meaning what? Treacherously. The root being Bagad. Next slide. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Wahanakash haya arum mikol kaya. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field. Now, what am I pointing out? The word arum, as you see here, translated in Genesis, means subtle. So let's go back up to the other slide, confirming that Bagad means to deal treacherously, right? So when we see, and he stripped off his clothes, it means he stripped off his treacherous ways. Bagad meaning to deal treacherously. Arum, same root form as Arum. Arum in Genesis is translated as subtle, not naked. So when you see the other root word here, Arum, brothers and sisters, the more correct phonetic pronunciation, translation, is not, brothers and sisters, naked, but more so his treacherous ways were made bare. It fell, yafol, to fall, from the root word nafal. His ways of being subtle, Saul's ways of being subtle, such as trying to sit there and slay his son, as we went over in the book of Samuel 14, such as throwing a spear at David, as we already are aware that he was jealous of David. So his subtle and treacherous and crooked ways, his treacherous ways was made to fall. That's what it's talking about in that particular regard. So this is just something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right? And that began, as you begin to see happen, brothers and sisters, when the Spirit became upon Saul. Next slide. Psalms chapter 83, verse 4. They hold crafty converse against thy people. Al-Amka, the Arimu soul. All right? Now, the highlighted part there in the red has the Aleph, the Resh, and the Mem. Now, let's look at this here. The Ayin, not Aleph, I stand corrected. Ayin, Resh, and Mem. Then we see here, Ayin, Resh, Waw, Mem. And as we know, the Waw is there as the vowel holder. Then we see the Ayin, the Resh, and the Mem. So, crafty converse. Its root in Hebrew comes from the Ayin, the Resh, and the Mem. Arum. This just happens to be conjugated in a pluralized form in the future tense here in the book of Psalms. But we just wanted to show that its root form means to be crafty. And as we already showed by God, brothers and sisters, means what? To deal treacherously. So when we begin to see in the book of Psalms that his Bigadiah, understood now with better translation as his treacherous ways, and his Arum, meaning that his subtle or craftiness was made bare before Saul, and before Samuel, and therefore Saul was counted as among the prophets by many. He was not butt naked prophesying in front of another man. So this is something we want to point out. Next slide. The matter of Ahayah next. Old Testament Hebrew explained part 6. Let's go. And he said, certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be the token unto thee, that I have sent thee. When thou shalt have brought forth this people out of Egypt, you shall serve God upon this mountain. Now this is coming, brothers and sisters, from the book of Exodus chapter 3. Wayomer ki echye imka. And he said, because echye imka, I will be with you. Wazeh laka ha'ot, and this to you is the sign. So this is just what we want to point out. Now let's go to this part right here on the right hand side. And David said to Saul, who am I and what is my life? Or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king. Vayomir David el Shaul, mi anoki umi chayai, mishpakat abi, Israel, ki ekye katan la melek. Now, what you see, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes, where the arrow you see there, the aleph, the hey, the yod, the hey. Some said as Ahayah. The aleph, the hey, the yod, the hey. It's on both sides. This one on the right-hand side is coming from the book of 1 Samuel chapter 18, in which David is saying, Ehyeh, which they say translated that I should be, which should say that I will be. All right? David didn't think or see himself as being a son-in-law to the king. All right? Katan means son-in-law. Now, we want to point out that this here, with or without vowels, points. Said with vowels is ehyeh. Said without by many is ahayah. What we're pointing out, brothers and sisters, is that David, speaking of himself, used that same exact word as you see here. Yet in the translation, you see nothing about Lord, God, the Creator, or so forth. Because this one right here is not the name of the Most High. So this is what we want to point out. Now, in Exodus chapter 3, where we see it says, Ehyeh, means I will be, imka, with you. I will be with you. So this is something we want to point out for reason and purposes. Next slide. The matter of Ehyeh said as Ahayah by some. The teaching of the name of the Most High as Ahayah is not accurate, nor can it be substantiated in linguistics, etymology, or history. The word Ahayah is Ehyeh without vowels. And the proper meaning of such is I will be. The following quotes are evidence. So when you go, brothers and sisters, in your own time and look up Exodus 4:12, Exodus 4:15, 1 Samuel 18, verse 18. This is 1 Samuel 18, verse 18 here, where David is speaking to Saul. And then Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 24. Let's go there. Ezekiel 34, verse 24 says, and I, the Lord, will be their God, and my servant David, prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken. So what we're looking at right here, brothers and sisters, it says, Wa'ani, and I, Yod, He, Waw, He, Ehyeh, Lahem, Lelohim, Wa'abdi Dawid, Nasi, Betokam, Ani, Yod, He, Waw, He, Dibarti. I, the Lord, have spoken. What are we pointing out, brothers and sisters? Is that Yod He Waw He is the holy name of the Most High. Whereas when we see this here, Aleph He Yod He, said by some as Ehyeh, said by others as Ahayah, is not the holy name of the Most High. So in Ezekiel chapter 34, verse 24, when we see in English, all right, and I, the Lord, will be. I will be is Ahayah by some, said as Ehyeh by those who are dealing with Hebrew with the vowel aspect. The vowels and the not vowels is not my argument at this point, on this particular part. What I'm pointing out, brothers and sisters, and attempting to point out, is that the Creator, the Most High, who was, who will be, who was, who will be, Howeh, present tense, Yah, Howah, Yahweh, Hayah, was, Yihweh, will be, the one who was, the one who will be, the Most High. This name here, you will not see in this part here where David speaking of himself. Nobody in the scriptures referred to themselves as the holy name for his own appointed name. The Most High did. Whereas we see, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes, Aleph Hey, Yod Hey, Ahayah, said by some. We see that same wording in the book of Samuel in regards to this here, with David speaking of himself. So let's understand that. Next slide. Exodus 3 and Exodus 20, let's explain. And God said to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, thus thou shalt say unto the children of Israel, I am has sent me unto you. Exodus chapter 20. I am the Lord thy God who brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other God before me. The Hebrew on the left-hand side says, Vayomer Elohim el Moshe, Echye asher echye, Vayomer ko tomar libnei Yisrael, Eye shalchani alechem. I will be that which I will be. That is what's saying in that particular regard. All right? Because Moses asked them, when the children of Israel asked me, what is your name? What shall I tell them? And the response was, Echye asher eye, I will be that which I will be. Now in the book of Exodus chapter 20, we see here, I am the Lord thy God. The Hebrew, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes, all right, says, Anoki Yod He Waw He Elohei Ka. Now for the people saying that YHWH or Yod He Waw He, said by some as Yahweh, said by some as Yahovah, said by some as Yahweh. For the people saying that the YHWH or the Yod He Waw He is steeped in some kind of paganism and is not the holy name of the Most High. How do you say in Hebrew, I am the Lord your God? Because here's the point. If we were to look as this translated here in Exodus chapter 3, as I am that I am, and we see in the Hebrew says as the arrow, if you're following along with that, Echye asher echye, which we are saying means I will be that which I will be. But many people are relying solely on the English by saying I am, I am. So let's just stay on that for a second, right? If this is saying I am that I am, how then in Hebrew is it said, I am the Lord your God? Unless one were to say, I am, I am. And if that's the case, then that means that this here would be incorrect by the Yod He Waw He being there. I am the Lord your God. You see this in Exodus, you see this in Leviticus. I am asking the people who are saying that the holy name of the Most High itself is Ahayah or Ahayah. How do you say, as we see here in Exodus, I am the Lord thy God? How is that statement, I am the Lord thy God, said in Hebrew, if we're not dealing with the Yod He Waw He? Because remember, Ahayah, said by some as Echye, is said to mean I am. So if we're reading I am the Lord thy God, that means one will have to say Anoki Ahayah. But Anoki is already said as I am. And we already pointed out that truthfully, Ahayah, said by some as Echye, truthfully means will be, or I will be. This is why I pointed out here in Ezekiel, and I, the Lord, will be. I will be. I will be. I will be. From the root word Hayah, which means to be or to exist. This is something we just want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide. The matter of Echye Ahayah part 2. Exodus chapter 3, verse 14 and 16. Exodus chapter 20, verse 1 through 2. Numbers chapter 15, verse 40 to 41. In those different parts there, like in Numbers 15, it says that I am the Lord thy God, or I am the Lord. How is that said in Hebrew? Is my point in asking. The places where the name Yah, Yahoo, Yahu can be found external are as follows. The Lachish Ashtakan, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Silver Scrolls, the Misha Stela, the Los Lunas inscription, as well as the Arad tablets. All right? So in the scriptures it says a matter is justified by 2 or 3 witnesses. Here we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so this is what we want to point out. Now let's go back, and I want to emphasize on 1 Samuel 18, verse 18. And David said to Saul, who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be, which means that I will be, son-in-law to the king? As we pointed out, brothers and sisters, yeah, I will be, which the weak translation says I should be. But this is David speaking of himself. So this is not the holy name of the Most High. That's why even in here, in 1 Samuel 18, verse 18, even in the translation in English, you don't see nothing about Lord or God or Creator. Because this word here, Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey, is not the holy name of the Most High. It's a Hebrew word, but it's not the holy name. So, taking that into consideration, David used that in regards to his own self as David. And the Most High used this in regard to himself as the Most High, both meaning I will be. I, the Lord, will be. I will be. Okay, next slide. So taking that, how then can we see I am the Lord thy God said as such? If Ahayah or Ahayah means the great I am. So if this is I am already, how is I am the Lord said in Hebrew? Now, brothers and sisters, this is what we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide. The matter concerning the Arad and silver scrolls dated to the era before Herod. Arad Ashtakah, as we went over earlier. Temple of Yahweh, Zedekiah 597 BCE. Why do I point out by saying dated before the era of Herod? Is because they who say that the YHWH in Hebrew as Yod He Wah He is created by Edomites. Yet we see it dated to the time before Edom had power in the land of Israel during the time of King Zedekiah. This is the point I want to make in that regard, because Herod was an Edomite. Now, what we want to point out, brothers and sisters, for edification purposes is this. All right? Let's look at the Ketef Hinnom, dated to the era of Jeremiah and Josiah. What you're looking at here is the ancient Hebrew writing. What you're looking at here is the modern Hebrew writing in the center, right? When you see Yod, Hey, Waw, Hey right here, translated in English as the Lord, the Hebrew has Yod, Hey, Waw, Hey. Yod is right there. Yod is right there. Hey, Waw, Hey. Yod, Hey, Waw, Hey. Dated to the era at the Ketef Hinnom, going all the way back in ancient Israel before the time of Herod. All right, so this is something, brothers and sisters, we want to point out for Hebrew edification. All right, next slide, please. The matter of Misha and Lachish. All right, this is the Misha Stella. Yod, Hey, Waw, Hey. This is not something that the Masoretes came along later and inserted. All right, the Lachish letters or Lachish Astrakhan reveals the name of God. Yod, Hey, Waw, Hey. All right, dated to the era of 589 BCE or BC. All right, now with this particular regard, with 589, Herod doesn't come along to centuries later. May my Lord Yahush, to my Lord Yahush, sorry. May YHWH cause my Lord to hear tidings of peace today, this very day. Who is your servant a dog, that my Lord remembered his servant? May YHWH make known to my Lord the matter of which you do not know. Brothers and sisters, YHWH. Lachish was in the land of Judah, and you see that written in the book of Jeremiah. All right, you can get a concordance and look up Lachish. All right, you also read that in the book of Joshua. So the YHWH, 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 Yod, Hey, Waw, Hey. Brothers and sisters, the Romans did not like YHWH. So the books that are geared from the Illuminati saying that YHWH or Yah or Yahweh must be a bad and horrible God and so forth and so on. Sometimes you may want to check who the author is and what kingdom they're speaking in. All right? Because if a person is not upholding and endorsing the laws of the Most High, but they're writing books talking about Yahweh and his Asherah and so forth and so on, you got to know that that author has an ulterior motive. So this is just something, brothers and sisters, we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide. The matter of Ahayah and Ahayah part 3. The verb we are discussing is the verb Hayah, meaning to be, to exist. Thus, Howeh means existing. And Hayah means he existed, and Yihyeh means he will exist. The uses of the Yod and the Waw must be understood in this matter. The understanding saying that Yahweh means God of devastation is not Hebraically sound. Since we know that the YHWH in root comes from the verb Hayah, we must stay in course with the language. The word Nilcham means to fight, yet we know Lechem means bread. Context is important. What am I pointing out, brothers and sisters, is that many who are saying that Yah as the holy name and then saying Howah means devastation. You can't do that in Hebrew, brothers and sisters, because the YHWH in Hebrew comes from its own root word, Hayah. So you can't try to jump ship like that, all right, by saying, well, Howah means this, and so therefore Yahweh must mean that. No, you can't do that linguistically. Next slide. The matter of learning Hebrew, verb Hayah. Now, Hayah, hey, yod, hey. Hayah, to be or to exist. What you're looking at here where the arrow is showing is Ehyeh, without vowels, said by many as Ahayah. And this means I will be, Tihyeh, you will be. Tihyeh, you will be when speaking to a female. Yihyeh, he will be, follow the arrow. Tihyeh, also meaning she will be. Nihyeh, we will be. Tihyu, you masculine plural will be. Tihyena, you feminine plural will be. All right? Yihyu, they will be masculine. Tihyena, they will be feminine plural. So, but let's emphasize on this. Ahayah, Ahyeh, I will be. That's part of a verb, brothers and sisters. And it's the future tense meaning to be or to exist. Just as much as we see Yihyeh. Now let's look at this carefully where the arrow is. Yihyeh means he will be. Ehyeh means I will be. This first letter said by many as Ah, which said by others as Aleph, serves as a prefix for the Ani. Ani means I or I am. So this is something, brothers and sisters, we want to point out in that particular regard. Let's look at this very carefully, and then let's go back up. You see this right here? Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey. Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey. I will be. So now let's go back to where the verb book is shown. All right? To be or to exist. Future tense. I will be. You see that? Aleph, Hey, Yod, Hey. Same exact word. So Ehyeh means I will be. All right? Now let's look at this part right here. Ahayah, I am. Ahayah, I am. In ancient original Phoenician Paleo-Hebrew, the language that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Yahshua spoke. Exodus chapter 3, verse 13 to 15. Ahayah, I am, is the only name given unto Moses himself in Exodus. That's not true because we see the name in Exodus chapter 6. But let's go on. The only name given unto the children of Israel, Yahshua, the only name given to all generations forever. That's not accurate because he said he's to be known as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as a memorial forever. There is no other name given. As we pointed out, Exodus chapter 6, verse 3 and 4 shows that not to be accurate. All other names are of Satan the devil. This is why I pointed out the aspect of Herod coming after the timing when we see ancient Israel speaking of YHWH. The devil has many names and fools the whole world. Ahayah Asher Ahayah, I am that I am, is the God of the Hebrew Israelites. Brothers and sisters, and I say this in no disrespect to any camp, but let's look at this right here. Ahayah, I am, an ancient original Phoenician Paleo-Hebrew. Now, sometimes when we're doing a teaching or presentation, we may be redundant. It happens, to emphasize the point maybe. However, when you look at this right here, right, and you see it says ancient, then you see paleo. Paleo is the Greek word for ancient. You can look that up in etymology. All right? Paleo is not deep. It's not like this mystery thing, you know? The word paleo simply is the Greek word meaning ancient. So this is something we want to point out. So, yes, it's a little redundant, but that's not the thing I'm trying to harp on when it says the ancient original Phoenician Paleo-Hebrew. All right? Paleo-Hebrew is the same thing as saying ancient Hebrew, because Paleo means ancient. Phoenician, brothers and sisters, is another Greek term, all right, given to the people that were of both Israelites and Canaanites, like the Zidonians in the tribe of Asher. Zidonians were Canaanites and Asherites were Israelites. All right, but it means purple in Greek. The word Phoenicia means purple. You may want to look that up in etymology as well. All right, so this is just something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right, so let's go on. The matter of Baal in Hosea chapter 2. The definition of Baal in noun is Lord or Master. This can be found in Exodus chapter 22, verse 8. As well as in Judges chapter 19, verse 23. The word Baal is a verb meaning to marry. This can be found in Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 1, and Isaiah chapter 62, verse 5. Isaiah chapter 54, verse 5. Bo alayik, meaning your Lord or your Master. Bo alayik. Bo alayik. Bet. Ayin, Lamed, Baal, and Root. This yod and this kaf sofit that you see me going over with this particular part with the arrow, right? That's the suffix. The main word there is Baal. Okay? Isaiah chapter 54, verse 1. Be'ulah, or said by some in English transliteration as Beulah. All right? But Be'ulah, the bet, the ayin, lamed. Bet, ayin, lamed. Ki yib al bekur betula. Yib aluk banayik. Sos katan al kala. Yasis alayik elohayik. That's coming from the book of Isaiah chapter 54, right? But what are we able to point out, brothers and sisters, is this. This red letter you see here is a yod. That serves as a prefix. The highlighted part there in the light pink, all right, I put it like that for point out purposes. The bet, the ayin, and the lamed, all right? Baal. Bet, ayin, lamed, Baal. Bet, ayin, lamed, Baal. Bet, ayin, lamed, Baal. Brothers and sisters, it's been noted that the word means Lord or Master. So when you read in Hebrew, Baal is simply meaning Lord or Master. What happened was people made idols and called those wooden things that they etched into, that they made a graven image, they called that Baal. All right? So this is just something we want to point out. Baal didn't make anything. All right, next slide. Hosea chapter 2 and Jeremiah 31. And it shall be at that day, saith the Lord, that thou shalt call me Ishi, and thou shalt not call me no more Baali. Ahayah bayom hahu ne'um yod wahe. Tikre'i Ishi. Warotikle'i li od Baali. What are we pointing out, brothers and sisters? Ishi, as we see here, Aleph, Yod, Shin, Yod. Ishi means my husband. All right? This is not said as my husband. So some people, not knowing perhaps that it's really said as Ishi, has said as Ishai. And then unfortunately have transformed it to say and mean from the root word Yasha, which means savior. But this root that you see here in the Hebrew in Hosea chapter 2, verses 16 to 18, this doesn't mean to save. All right? So taking only the English transliteration and reading with English understanding, many people have said that this is said as Ishai, and then saying Yasha means to save. But this word here doesn't come from the word Yasha. This is the word Ishi, which is a noun meaning my husband. All right? Now, Jeremiah chapter 31 says this, but this is the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward parts, in their hearts will I write it, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Ki zot habrit, asho ekrot et bet Israel, akre hayamim hahem, le'um yorei wahe, natati et torati b'quirbam, wa alibam et tabena, wa hayiti lahem le'elohim, wa hema yikyu li la'am. Why did I go over that? Because when you read there, right, brothers and sisters here, Wahema means and they, which you see right there, and they shall be. They shall be. This is just showing the pronoun in front of the verb itself. Hema is the pronoun. You is the actual verb. So let's go back and look at this here. All right? You, where you see the arrow pointed out. They will be. All right? So now when we see this right here, you, they will be. This is what we want to emphasize. All right? They shall be also said as they will be. All right? Hebrew for edification purposes. Next slide. The silver scrolls from the era of Josiah. All right? Let's look at this here. Yod He Waw He. Line number 6. Line number 6. Right there. Yod He Waw He. Yod He Waw He. The people who promote the name as Ahayah may want to think of this. They believe in Jesus and say it as Yashaya and love to use the Strong's Concordance. Strong's Concordance, H3467 states, Yasha means in verb to save. Who then is the Yah at the end of Yasha? Now, many Israelites who even listen to what I teach happen to deem themselves as messianic. That's not the main point in this particular slide. All right? Now, many of them subscribe to the New Testament, and they say that Jesus is truly said as Yashaya. Yashaya. Right? Now, if such is the case in that particular regard, and Yasha means to save, then who is Yah? Let me state this question again. The people who state, brothers and sisters, and promote the name of the Most High as Ahayah or Ahayah, said by many, are also many who are also deeming themselves as messianic. And they are also saying that Jesus is truthfully said in Hebrew as Yashaya. So let's looking at that, and they also, no offense intended, loving to use the Strong's Concordance. When you go to the Strong's Concordance in your own, H3467, it states that Yasha means in a verb to save. But these same people don't say the name of the Most High or subscribe to saying the name as Yah. So if Yasha means to save, according to the Strong's Concordance, what or who is the Yah in Yashaya? Next slide. The matter of Yasha, Strong's Concordance. Yod Shin Ayin. To save. to be saved, to be delivered. The nif'al, to be delivered, to be saved, to be delivered, to be liberated, to be saved in battle, to be victorious. The hif'il, to save, to deliver, to save from moral troubles, to give victory to. Many Israelites do not acknowledge the matter of the nif'al and the hif'il. What we see on the left is from the Blue Letter Bible online. The nif'al is the passive of the qual. The hif'il is the causative of the qual. I teach that on my Hebrew channel, all right? The nif'al is prefixed with a noon. The hif'il is prefixed with the hay in the past tense, command form, and a mem in the present tense. Many Israelites who are quoting certain things such as the Blue Letter Bible online and the Strong's Concordance, they see words like the nif'al and the hif'il, yet may not understand because they don't subscribe to quote-unquote modern Hebrew, quote-unquote, yet using concordances and online information that show what the nif'al is and that show what the hif'il is. That's what we want to point out. So let's look. This here, Yod Shin Ayin, Yasha. If they're saying that the holy name is not Yod He Wah He, but is Ahayah, and saying that Jesus is truthfully said as Yashaya, but Yasha means to save. Who or what is the Yah in the name Yashaya? Next slide. The matter of rape, next. Deuteronomy 22 explained. If a man find a damsel that is not betrothed, and lay hold on her and lie with her, and they be found. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28 in the Hebrew says, Kim yimza ish na'ara betula, ashelo orasa, ut pasah, ushakab imah, wanim za'u. The point, brothers and sisters, we want to emphasize on is the fact of saying this. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 28, believe it or not, is not talking about rape. And how are we going to prove that? By looking at this right here, right? And they be found. The highlighted part there says, Wanim Za'u, Mem, Zade, Aleph, Bazah, to find. This noon that you see here where the arrow is with the kirik underneath it, that shows it to be the passive. Nimza, nimzeu. This is inside of the nif'al stem. But if you drop off that waw, meaning and this noon, making it passive, you just get ma'za, dropping off the suffix of the waw. Alright? Ma'za means to find. Nimza means to be found. Here's the point. Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 cannot be talking about rape because it says if they're found. A rape is when a woman causes it to be known. You don't have to find that. So when it says there, and they be found, it's either they got caught in an act of sex or she became pregnant and it was found out. But if Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 is speaking about rape, then it will be no need to say, and they be found. That's the point we want to emphasize on. Let's go on, brothers and sisters, to the next part. Deuteronomy 22 explained. Then the man that lay with her shall give unto the damsel's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he hath humbled her. He may not put her away all his days. When atan ha'isha shokev ima, la'abi hana'ara, kamishim kasef, walo tikyeh the isha, and she shall be to him, lo, meaning to him in this regard, le isha, for wife, takat ashel ina, lo you call shalka, kol yamail, all his days he cannot put her away. So this is something we want to point out. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 28 and verse 29 is not condoning rape. It's not saying you got to marry your rapist. All right? And we want to emphasize that because it says, and they shall be found, means that it wasn't a rape. It means that they were consensual with it. Next slide. The matter of tapas or tapash. And Jehoash, king of Israel, took Amaziah, king of Judah, son of Jehoash, the son of Ahaziah, and Beit Shemesh, and came to Jerusalem, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim unto the corner gate, 400 cubits. Where et Amatyahu, Melech Yehuda ben Jehoash, ben Akaz Yahu, Tapas, Jehoash, Melech Israel. Now, the highlighted part that you see there in the white on the left-hand side, tapas, all right, took. That's what we want to point out. Now, let's understand what this word tapas or tapash is. Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 8. The priest said not, where is the Lord? And they that handle the Lord knew me not. Hakohanim lo amru, aye yore wahe, watot se, hatorah lo yadauni. Tau, pay, sin. Tau, pay, sin. Tau, pay, sin. Tapas or tapash. All right? That sin also being said as a sheen in many cases. All right? It means to handle. It means to take. But we want to emphasize, brothers and sisters, what that actually is. What kind of handling? Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 23. If there be a damsel that is a virgin betrothed unto a man, and a man find her in the city and lie with her, na arabetula, the orasa la ish, wanim za'ah, salak, za'ah ish, and a man he find her, ba'ir in the city, with shakab ima, and lay with her. Then you shall bring them both out unto the gate of the city, and you shall stone them with stones that they die. The damsel, because she cried not, being in the city, and the man, because he hath humbled his neighbor's wife. So shalt thou put away the evil from the midst of thee. Now you notice in Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 23 to verse 24, it doesn't mention anything about them being found, but it mentions the man finding a woman, but she cries out, being in the city. That's why they don't have to be found, because she's going to make herself found. That's the distinction. Let's slide. Exodus chapter 21, verse 10, in the matter of Enoch. In akaret yikwaklo te'era kisuta wa onata lo yigra. And if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her conjugal rights, shall he not diminish? What am I pointing out? That Enoch said, when you show it here as onata, the hay becomes a towel. That's why you see the towel right there, where the arrow is, all right? It means conjugal rights or sexual activity. It's the same root word enal, meaning to afflict. Because when a man does enter a woman, it is an affliction upon her womb. That's why within the vaginal walls, when she's having sex, there are cuts within her vaginal walls. All right? Next slide. Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 25. We'in basade gimza ha'ish, etana ara ham orasa, wehekezik bah ha'ish, shakab imah, ometa ish asho shakab imah, lebado. But if a man find a damsel that is betrothed in the field, and the man take hold of her and lie with her, then the man only that lie with her shall die. What are we pointing out? This take hold here of her is said here as chazak or hechezik, which means that he had the strength to take her. That's the physical aspect. This here where it says tapas or tapash, to handle, that's the spiritual taking. That's what that is there. So, when we see right here, tapas, It means to handle, to manipulate, to swindle, or to take. In order for a virgin to want to have sex, she has to mentally be taken. He has to, in layman terms, beat her in the head. That is not talking about him hitting her in the head. He has to convince her. He has to try to sway her into wanting to have sex with him. A virgin is not easily just made to have sex. All right? Something in her mind is causing her to want to give up her virginity. All right? Whereas a woman who's not a virgin, and is not to sound like a dog, most men do know if a woman is not a virgin, it's easier to have sex with her than it is to have sex with a virgin. So in order to win a virgin over sexually, he has to do the tapas. He has to manipulate and handle it of the mind in order for her mind to be comfortable to even have sex with that. This is what we want to emphasize in that particular regard. All right? Hebrew of Hekezik, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 18. She is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that holdeth her fast. Et kayim hi lamakaziquim ba, watom keha be ushar. The highlighted part, brothers and sisters, all right? Mem, ket, zayin, yod, kuf, yod, mem. Ket, zayin, kuf. Ket, zayin, kuf. These are just it in different aspects of conjugation. This is why you may see the suffixes or the prefixes with that root word kazak, okay? So they took the victuals of the people in their land and their horns and sent all the men of Israel, everyone to his tent. But retained the 300 men, and the camp of Midian was beneath him in the valley. Wayiku et Vedaha'am bayadam et shof rotehem wa et called ish Yisrael shilak ish lo halayewa ubish losh meot ha'ish hekezik ket Zion kuf. Ket Zion kuf means kazak, to lay hold, to be take fast hold of, to have the strength, because the word kazak means to be strong. So when you read about this aspect, brothers and sisters, take hold of her, kazak in its root, that means he had the strength to do so, physically. Just like you see here, physically, with the word kazak, whereas the word tapas means more so of the mind. That's why I pointed it out in Jeremiah. It says, they who handle the law. The law is an actual, not just physical, but a spiritual thing. Tapas, to handle in the spirit. Kazak, to handle in the physical. That's the point to emphasize in that regard. We're going to close out with this part here. And the drinking was according to the law, none did compel. So the king had appointed to all the officers of his house, that they should do according to every man's pleasure. The Hebrew helps. Esther chapter 1, verse 8. Wahashtiya kadat ain ones. He came Yisad Hamelech. Al kal rab beto. La asot kirzon ish we ish. Ones means compel. That, brothers and sisters, is the word for rape. Compelling. Being made to go against your will. That's the actual word that most translate as the word rape. All right? Brothers and sisters, this is what we want to point out for edification purposes. Any questions? I can be contacted. 908-587-4841. Giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. Shalom.